After receiving my promotion, I was rushing home to surprise my husband. But a young girl standing by the entrance of my apartment complex, the kind of girl the neighbors said had the sight, whispered to me, "Trouble is waiting for you in there." I decided not to risk it and tucked myself away behind the corner of the brick building. What I saw next made my blood run cold. Welcome to the Turns of Fate Chronicle. Before we begin, tell us where you are reading from. We love hearing from our community. We hope you find this story as gripping as we did. Niara Vance stood by her office window, staring out at the gray November sky over Charlotte, North Carolina. She could hardly believe her luck. For 7 years, 7 long, grueling years, she had walked into this office on the outskirts of the city. She had checked endless invoices, reconciled accounts, and stayed hunched over spreadsheets until the cleaning crew arrived. And finally, the CEO had called her in to deliver the news she had been too afraid to even pray for. "Nara," said Sterling Montgomery, a tall, silver-haired man with kind eyes and a presence that commanded respect. "We've decided to appoint you as our chief accountant. You've earned this. Your work has always been flawless." Niara felt a surge of joy tighten in her chest. Chief accountant. This was a completely different level, a different salary, a different life. She could finally send Nyla to those specialized STEM camps the girl had been dreaming about. She could save up for a real vacation. Not just a weekend at her parents' place, but a trip to the coast. Maybe even Hilton Head. Perhaps she could finally trade in her beat-up sedan for something reliable. "Thank you, Mr. Montgomery," she managed to say, trying to keep her voice steady, even though her hands were betraying her with a slight tremor. "I'll do everything I can to justify your trust." "You already have." The director smiled. "Go on home. Get some rest. You start your new duties on Monday. By the way, the promotion comes with a $30,000 increase to your base salary, plus your quarterly bonuses will be significantly higher. I don't think you'll regret it." $30,000. Nara did the math in her head instantly. That was almost double what she was making now. Lord, she hadn't felt this kind of relief in years. Lately, they had been living paycheck to paycheck. Every cent went to the mortgage, groceries, and clothes for Nyla. Her husband, Dantrell, didn't bring home much either, working as a manager in the procurement department of the same company. Together they made just enough to cover the essentials, and nothing more. But now everything was going to change. "Congratulations again," Montgomery said, reaching out to shake her hand. Nara took it, her cheeks flushed with excitement. She stepped out of the office, closed the door behind her, and finally let out the breath she'd been holding. The hallway was empty, save for a janitor buffing the floors at the far end. Nara leaned against the wall, closed her eyes, and let herself smile. This was it. This was what those years of grinding were for. The reward for every hour of overtime, every sleepless night before tax season, and the fact that she never called out sick or showed up a minute late. "Nara, is it true?" A voice called out from the side. She opened her eyes to see Bernice coming toward her from the HR department. Bernice was a warm, heavy-set woman in her 50s whom Niara often shared coffee with during lunch breaks. "It's true." Nara nodded. "I got the promotion." Bernice beamed and pulled her into a tight hug. "I am so happy for you, sugar. You deserved it. Truly. How long can a person work for pennies? Now you can finally live a little." "I hope so," Nara said, gently stepping out of the embrace. She was always a bit awkward with big displays of emotion, especially at work. "Does Thor know?" Bernice asked, lowering her voice and glancing around. Harrison Thorne, the head of the finance department, had been Nara's direct supervisor for the last 7 years. He was a rigid, demanding man in his 40s who never handed out praise, but was quick to dress someone down in front of the whole office for the slightest error. Nara was intimidated by him, though she respected his expertise. "I don't know," Nara admitted. "The CEO called me in himself." "I'm sure Mr. Thorne was notified." "Well, we'll see how he takes it," Bernice huffed. "He always saw you as his best little worker bee. Now you're his peer, practically an equal." Nara shrugged. She didn't want to think about office politics. She just wanted to savor the moment, go home, and share the news with her family. She said goodbye to Bernice, went to her desk, and quickly packed her things. There were unfinished reports sitting there, but for once, she decided they could wait. It was Friday, after all. As she walked toward the exit, she ran into Thorne. He was coming out of his office with a leather portfolio. "Mrs. Vance," he nodded curtly. "Congratulations on the appointment." "Thank you, Mr. Thorne," she replied, trying not to show her nerves. "I hope you're up for it." He looked her up and down, as if measuring her worth. Chief accountant is a massive responsibility. There is no room for error at that level. "I understand," Nara said, holding his gaze. "Well then." Thorne nodded and continued down the hall. "Have a good evening." Nara watched him walk away. Something about his tone felt off. It wasn't just his usual coldness. It was a strange kind of detachment, but she brushed it off. Maybe she was just overthinking it. She stepped outside and took a deep breath. The November evening met her with a damp wind and a light drizzle. The sky was heavy with dark clouds, and the city was already dimming, though it was barely past 6 o'clock. Nara turned up her collar, gripped her bag, and walked toward the bus stop. It was only a 20-minute walk to her place. But today, she didn't want to wait for the bus. She wanted to get home as fast as possible to see Dantrell. The streets were mostly empty. People were scurrying home, hiding from the rain under umbrellas and hoods. Nara walked briskly, sidestepping puddles, thinking about how she'd tell Dantrell. He'd be thrilled. Surely, he might even hold her the way he used to when they first got married. Lately, Dantrell had become distant. He spent more and more time at work or huddled over his laptop at home. He'd come in late, eat his dinner in silence while staring at his phone, and then disappear into the other room until late at night. Nara had chalked it up to exhaustion. Procurement was a high-stress job after all. But this news would surely wake him up. Maybe she'd suggest they go out this weekend to a movie or that nice bistro they used to love. They hadn't been out, just the two of them, in forever. As she walked, her mind raced with plans. Na needed new winter boots. Her old ones were falling apart, and the girl had been complaining about her feet getting wet. She also needed to help her mother, Gwendolyn, with her heart medication. Her blood pressure had been acting up, and the good pills were nearly $200 a bottle. And for herself, finally, a new coat. A real one, not something from the thrift store. She ran the numbers again and smiled. Everything was going to be fine. Finally, they had stability. Nara turned onto her street. The brick apartment buildings stood in a row, modest and identical, with slightly worn-out stoops. Her entrance was the third one down. It was a quiet neighborhood on the edge of the city, a playground with rusted swings, a small corner store at the end of the block, and rows of parked cars. This had been her home for the last 10 years, ever since she married Dantrell and moved into his 2-bedroom place on the 3rd floor. Near the entrance, a few neighbors were standing under the awning to stay dry. Nara nodded hello and kept moving. She was about 10 feet from the door when a small figure stepped out from the shadows near the side of the building. It was a girl, maybe 10 years old, wearing a bright mismatched sweater and a long skirt. Her dark hair was a wild halo around her head, and her eyes were strikingly large and deep. She grabbed Nara's sleeve, and Nara jumped back in surprise. "Ma'am," the girl whispered, staring directly into her eyes. "Don't go inside. Don't go in there. There's trouble waiting for you." Nara instinctively pulled her arm away. There were often kids from the nearby shelter or families passing through who hung around the corner, sometimes asking for change. Usually Nara just walked past. But something in the girl's voice, a certain weight, made her freeze. "What?" Nara stammered. "Don't go," the girl repeated, her grip on Nara's arm tightening. Her fingers were thin and cold, but surprisingly strong. "Do you hear me? There is trouble. Big trouble. Just wait a little bit, please. Honey, let go." Nara tried to free herself. "I'm in a hurry. I need to get home. Don't hurry." The girl shook her head, and for a second, Nara saw a flash of what looked like genuine pity in her eyes. "Just wait 5 minutes. You'll thank me later." Nara wanted to argue, to push her aside and walk in. This felt like some kind of neighborhood hustle. If she showed fear, The girl would ask for money, and then laugh at the gullible lady once she got it. That's how it usually went. They'd scare you, talk about bad luck or a curse, and then offer to fix it for $20. But for some reason, her legs wouldn't move. A cold shiver ran down her spine. "Why are you saying this?" she asked softly. "What's going on?" "I saw," the girl said, finally letting go and stepping back. "I see things sometimes. There are bad people in there. They want to hurt you. Don't go in yet. Just wait." Nara stood there feeling ridiculous. This was absurd. This was a child who had probably been taught how to spook people. But what if? What if there was a fire or a break-in? Dantrell might have come home early and walked into something. She reached for her phone to call him, but then hesitated. If nothing was wrong, she'd look like an idiot. "Hey, baby. A kid on the street told me not to come home, so I'm standing outside in the rain." He'd laugh at her, tell her she was being superstitious and foolish. Lately, he'd been treating her with a kind of patronizing patience anyway, as if she were a child who needed to be managed. "Fine," Nara exhaled, not even understanding why she was agreeing. "I'll wait, but only for a minute." The girl nodded and vanished around the corner of the building as if she'd dissolved into the mist. Nara stood on the sidewalk, feeling like a complete fool. The neighbors under the awning glanced at her, but said nothing. She moved away from the entrance and tucked herself behind the corner of the building where the girl had just been. She leaned against the cold brick and reached into her pocket for a crumpled pack of cigarettes. She had quit 3 years ago when Nyla started school and launched a one-girl campaign against smoking, but she always kept a pack for high-stress situations. She lit one and inhaled. The smoke burned her throat and she coughed, but it helped settle the buzzing in her ears. She checked her watch. It was 6:30. Dantrell usually didn't get home until 7 or later, so the apartment should be empty. Na was at her friend Tasha's house working on a science project. She wasn't due back until 9 o'clock. So, why was she waiting? What could possibly happen in an empty apartment? 5 minutes. Nara decided, "I'll stay 5 minutes and then I'm going up. No more listening to street psychics." She finished the cigarette, crushed the butt in a puddle, and looked toward the entrance. Everything was quiet. No signs of trouble. Windows were lit up in the building. People cooking dinner. People watching the news. It was a normal Friday night. From a first-floor window, she could hear the muffled sound of a talk show host shouting over a guest. She pulled out her phone and checked her texts with Nyla. The last one was from noon. "Mom, I'm at Tasha's. Back by 9 o'clock. Don't call. We're practicing." Practicing what? Na hadn't specified, but Niara didn't push it. The girl was 12 now, becoming more independent, and Niara was proud of that. She thought about texting Dantrell to see when he'd be home, but changed her mind. Why bother? He'd give her a one-word answer, like always. It was better to just surprise him with the news and maybe a nice dinner. There was a chicken in the fridge she could roast with some rosemary and potatoes. Nara was about to step out from behind the corner when the front door of the building swung open. 3 people walked out. Nara recognized them instantly, even though she was standing in the shadows. First was Dantrell, her husband. He was tall and lean, wearing the charcoal jacket she'd bought him for his birthday 2 years ago. He was saying something, looking back at the people following him, and he was smiling. Niara hadn't seen him smile like that in months, broadly, easily, as if he were truly happy. Walking beside him was a younger woman, maybe 25, slender in a fashionable red coat and fitted jeans. Her long light brown hair was pulled back into a sleek ponytail. She was walking close to Dantrell, her shoulder almost touching his, and she was smiling, too. Niara had never seen her before. And trailing behind them was Harrison Thorne, her boss, the man who had dryly congratulated her an hour ago. He walked with his hands in his coat pockets, his expression serious. Nara froze, pressing her back against the brick wall. Her heart was hammering so loudly, she was sure they could hear it. What were they doing together? Why was Dantrell leaving their building at 6:30 when he was supposed to be at work until 8? And who was this woman? They stopped on the stoop and Nara could hear their voices clearly in the quiet evening air. Thorne was speaking in a crisp business-like tone, the same way he did in board meetings. "All right, here's the plan. Monday morning, I'll call Nara into my office. I'll present her with the documentation showing a massive discrepancy, embezzlement, and forged reports. I've already got the paperwork ready. The signatures are near perfect replicas. She'll deny it, of course, but the evidence will be undeniable. What if she doesn't buy it? That was Dantrell's voice. Nara is meticulous. She might start digging. She won't have time. Thorne dismissed him. I'll bring in corporate security immediately. I'll tell them it's a Heil breach and that the company is hemorrhaging funds. Montgomery trusts me. He'll listen to my recommendation. By lunchtime, she'll be fired for cause, and we'll have a morality clause triggered. Nara felt the ground shift beneath her feet. What? Embezzlement? Forgery? She had never taken a single cent. She checked every report 3 times. She reconciled every penny. This was insane. This was some kind of sick nightmare. And then the position opens up. Thorne continued. Dantrell, you've been with the company long enough. I'll provide the recommendation. Formally, you're qualified for the transition into the finance side. Montgomery won't object. I'll tell him you've proven yourself as a loyal specialist. And what about Sloan? Dantrell asked, nodding toward the woman in the red coat. Sloan stays as my executive assistant for now, Thorne replied. We LLC down the line. The main thing is that this goes off without a hitch. The woman, Sloan, giggled and tucked her arm into Dantrell's. Dantrell, can you imagine? You'll be the new department lead, and I'll be right there with you. That's what we wanted, right? Dantrell leaned down and kissed her cheek. It was a casual, practice kiss. Nara clamped her hand over her mouth to keep from screaming. Of course, baby, Dantrell said. Everything is going exactly as we planned. And after that, Sloan asked, looking at Thorne. You said we need to make sure about the kid, too. We'll handle the custody, Thorne nodded. Once the divorce papers are served, Dantrell will file for full custody of Nyla. By then, Nara will be unemployed with a ruined reputation and a potential criminal investigation over her head. No judge is going to give a child to a mother who can't provide and is suspected of white-collar crime. The court will side with the father. Perfect. Sloan pressed closer to Dantrell. I told you it would work. You were so worried. I wasn't worried. Dantrell grumbled. I just want it done right. Nara isn't stupid. She might sense something. She won't sense a thing. Thorne lit a cigarette and took a long drag. She just got that promotion. She thinks she's on top of the world. She has no clue that I'm the one who pushed Montgomery to give it to her. Specifically, so the fall would be harder. When someone is flying high, the crash is much more devastating. Nara stood like a statue. Her hands were shaking so violently, she almost dropped her phone. This couldn't be real. Her husband, her boss. They were conspiring to destroy her life, take her daughter, and leave her with nothing. And for what? For a job title for this woman. So, what's the timeline? Dantrell asked, pulling out his own cigarettes. Monday, we fire her, Thorne said. Tuesday, you serve the divorce papers. A week later, we move you into the new role. The custody battle might take a couple of months, but that's fine. The main thing is that Niara doesn't get a chance to find another job. I've already talked to my contacts in the industry. No one will give her a reference. Everyone will hear she was let go for fraud. Who wants a crooked accountant? Mr. Thorne, you are a genius, Sloan said admiringly. Experience, girl. Experience, he smirked. I've been with this company 20 years. I know how the gears turn. I've already alerted the people I need to. Security is on my side. The lawyers, too. Montgomery is getting old. He doesn't have the energy for details. He'll take my word for it. Dantrell exhaled a cloud of smoke. What about her mother, Gwendolyn? She might try to step in. That old woman, Thorne snorted. She's a pensioner with heart trouble. What is she going to do? The main thing is to make sure Nara doesn't run to a lawyer immediately. But she won't. She'll be in shock. She'll spend her time looking for a job that isn't there. And by the time she realizes what happened, it'll be too late. I hope so, Dantrell said, crushing his cigarette but on the pavement. I am so tired of this life. Tired of Niara. Tired of her constant whining about money. Tired of her mother calling every week asking for one thing or another. I just want to live a normal life with Sloane. A real life. Sloane kissed him on the lips, and Niara felt her stomach flip. A wave of nausea hit her. She clutched the wall to keep from collapsing. Dantrell, we're going to be so happy. Sloane whispered. You, me, and little Nyla. I'll love her like she's my own. I promise. Neela is a good kid. Dantrell nodded. She's smart. She loves me. Not like her mother. Nara has been so cold lately. All she thinks about is work. She comes home and doesn't even ask how my day was. She's turned into a block of ice. Nara bit her lip until it bled. Cold. She was cold. She made him breakfast every morning. She kept the house clean. She did his laundry. She raised his daughter. She had been working 2 jobs worth of hours just to keep them afloat. And he called her cold. All right, I'm heading out. Thorne checked his watch. I'll call you Monday morning. Dantrell, get to the office 20 minutes early. Come to my office for the final instructions. Sloane, you stay sharp. If Nara starts sniffing around, you let me know immediately. You got it, Mr. Thorne. Sloane nodded. And remember, Thorne looked at both of them sternly. No mistakes. Act natural, Dantrell. Go home and act like everything is normal. No fights, no hints. Nara shouldn't suspect a thing until Monday morning. Got it? Got it. Dantrell said. I know her. She's floating on air right now because of that promotion. She won't even look my way. They stood there for another minute discussing details Nara could no longer hear. Her ears were ringing and her vision was blurring. She pressed her forehead against the cold brick and closed her eyes. It was hard to breathe, as if someone were squeezing her throat. Dantrell, her Dantrell, Nyla's father, the man she had built a life with for 10 years. He wanted to take her child. He wanted to leave her with nothing. When she opened her eyes, the trio was parting ways. Thorne got into his black sedan parked nearby. Dantrell and Sloane walked toward the bus stop, their arms linked. Sloane was chirping away, laughing, and Dantrell was smiling. Nara stood behind the corner and watched them go. Inside her, something terrifying was brewing, a mixture of agonizing pain and white-hot rage. She wanted to run out, to scream, to claw Dantrell's face and ask, How could you? How dare you? But she didn't move. She just stood and watched as Thorne's car pulled away and Dantrell and Sloane disappeared around the corner. Then she pulled out her phone. Her hands were shaking and her fingers wouldn't obey, but she forced them. She opened the voice memo app, hit record, and waited. They came back 10 minutes later. She heard their voices from a distance. They were standing by the entrance again. They were speaking quieter this time, but Niara crept closer, hiding behind the cars parked along the curb. She held her phone out toward them. The papers are all set, Dantrell was saying. I saw the lawyer today. As soon as Niara is fired, I'll file for divorce. The grounds will be irreconcilable differences and her unstable mental state. I'll say she's become erratic and is taking it out on the kid. And Nyla won't slip up, Sloane asked. What if she tells her mom you're being mean? I'm not being mean to her, Dantrell scoffed. Nyla loves me. I'm the one who helps with her homework and watches movies with her. Nara never has time for her. She's always buried in work. I'll tell the judge the mother is obsessed with her career and doesn't care about her daughter. After the firing, she won't stand a chance. Thorne really thinks it'll work. There was a hint of uncertainty in Sloane's voice. Thorne has thought of everything, Dantrell said confidently. He's been there 20 years. He has connections everywhere. He's even close with the CEO's family. Whatever Thorne says goes. Nara won't even find the discrepancies. She won't even know what hit her. What if she finds the shortage herself? She won't. Dantrell laughed. She hasn't seen the books Thorne prepared yet. He's not showing them until Monday, and the numbers and signatures are so well faked, she won't be able to prove they aren't hers. By the time any expert looks at them, it'll be months from now, and everything will be decided. She'll be out. I'll have the job. The custody will be settled. Done. Sloane sighed with relief. Honestly, How did you live with her for so long?
She's so plain, so boring.
Dantrell shrugged. I was young and dumb when I fell for her. She was different then. Fun, pretty. Then she had Nyla, and just let herself go. Always in a bathrobe, always tired, always complaining. I'm done. I want to live, not just exist in this dump. I want to travel, go to restaurants, see the world. We will, Sloane promised. As soon as you get the promotion and the divorce is final, we're going somewhere. Maybe the Caribbean. Wherever you want, baby. Dantrell hugged her. They stood there for a few more minutes, kissing and whispering. Nara listened and recorded. Everything. Every vile detail of their plan, the forged documents, the embezzlement frame-up, Thorne's deal with the security team, the plan to steal Nyla. When they finally parted for good, Sloane headed for the bus stop, and Dantrell went inside the building. Niara stopped the recording and looked at the screen. 32 minutes. Every word was there. She tucked the phone into her pocket and only then realized she was crying. Tears were streaming down her face, dripping onto her jacket. She wiped them away, but they wouldn't stop. The little neighborhood girl had been right. Trouble was waiting for her at home. But now Nara knew, and she knew exactly what she had to do. Nara didn't go home. She stood by the entrance for another 10 minutes, trying to stop the shaking in her hands and gather her thoughts. Then she turned and walked away from the building. She walked fast, almost running, not even caring where she was going. She just had to get away. She couldn't look at that door. She couldn't think about Dantrell sitting on their sofa right now, watching TV as if he hadn't just plotted to ruin her life. She reached a bus stop and sat on the cold plastic bench. She looked at the recording. 32 minutes. The voices were clear. Every word was audible. It was her only weapon. She dialed her mother's number. It rang once, twice. Hello, Niara, Gwendolyn's tired voice answered.
Mom.
Nara swallowed the lump in her throat. Can I bring Nyla over to your place for the weekend tonight? Of course, sugar, but what's wrong? You sound different. Everything is fine, Mom. I just have some things to handle. I'll bring her over in the morning.
Okay.
All right. I'll be waiting. Nara hung up and checked the time. It was 8:32. Na was still at Tasha's. Dantrell was home. She had to survive until morning. Pretend nothing had happened.
Pretend she didn't know a thing.
She got up and slowly walked back toward the apartment. On the way, she stopped at the corner store and bought a chicken, potatoes, and some cream. She was going to make dinner. A normal Friday night. When she walked into the apartment, Dantrell was indeed on the sofa. He glanced back at her, gave a curtain nod, and went back to the action movie on the screen. Hey, he said indifferently. Where you been? At the store, Nara said, walking into the kitchen without looking at him. I'm making dinner. Good, Dantrell yawned. I'm starving. Nara began prepping the chicken in silence. Her hands moved on autopilot, cutting, peeling, washing. Her mind was a whirlpool. How can he sit there asking for dinner knowing that in 3 days he plans to destroy me, knowing he wants to take my daughter? She nearly cut her finger when he stepped into the kitchen and leaned over her shoulder to look into the pot. Rosemary potatoes? He asked.
Nice.
Haven't had that in a while. Yeah. Nara turned toward the sink. Why are you so pale? He narrowed his eyes. You getting sick? Just tired, she replied, still not looking at him. A lot going on at work.
Right.
Well, I left early today. Had a headache. Thorne let me go. Nara gripped the knife so hard her knuckles turned white. Liar. He's lying straight to my face. He was hugging his mistress outside 30 minutes ago, and now he was playing the tired husband. Okay, she squeezed out. Get some rest, then. She finished dinner in total silence, set the table, and called him over. They ate without a word. He stared at his phone. She stared at her plate. A normal family dinner. At 9, Nyla came home happy and windblown with her backpack. Hey guys, she shouted, kicking off her shoes. We finished the project. It's about the solar system. Tasha painted the planets and I wrote the report. We're presenting it tomorrow. Good job, baby. Nara pulled her daughter into a fierce hug. Neela smelled like strawberry shampoo and candy. My smart girl. Mom, what's up? The girl pulled away, looking confused. Is something wrong? No, everything is perfect. Nara smoothed her hair. I just missed you. Hey, you want to go stay at Grandma Gwendolyn's for the weekend? Nyla's face lit up. Yeah, she promised me she'd make those specialty biscuits. Then you're going. Nara smiled through the pain.
Pack your bag.
I'll drop you off in the morning.
Just you and me.
Nyla looked at Dantrell. Dad's not coming. No, Dad has things to do. Nara answered quickly. Just us. Okay. Nyla shrugged and ran to her room. Nara watched her go and felt her heart tighten. They wanted to take her. They wanted to tell a judge that she was a bad mother, that the father was the better choice. That would never happen. Not as long as she was breathing. Nara didn't sleep that night. She lay beside Dantrell as he snored, staring at the ceiling, planning every move. In the morning, she got up at 6. Dantrell was still dead to the world. She quietly packed Nyla's things, grabbed her own work documents, the ones she kept as backups, and they left. Mom, are we not telling Dad we're leaving? Nyla asked in the elevator. He's sleeping. Let him be, Nara said. We'll call him later. They took a cab towel. Her mother lived in an older part of town in a small, tidy house with a porch. She met them at the door and pulled Nyla inside. Go on to the kitchen, sugar. I made some cocoa. Me and your mom need to talk. Once the door was closed, Gwendolyn looked at her daughter sternly. Tell me what's going on, Nara. You look like you haven't slept in a week.
Talk to me.
Nara sat her mother down and told her everything. The promotion, the girl at the gate, Dantrell and Sloane, Thorne's plan, the recording. Gwendolyn listened, her face turning ashen. When Niara finished, her mother sat in silence for a moment, then gripped Nara's hands. Lord have mercy, Gwendolyn whispered. Dantrell, I never thought he was capable of this. He always seemed so quiet. I didn't think so either. Nara pulled out her phone and played a snippet of the recording. But it's all true, Mom. They want Nyla. They want to ruin me. The low-down snakes. Gwendolyn hissed. What are you going to do? I don't know, Nara admitted. I need a lawyer, a good one, but I don't even know where to start.
Wait.
Her mother stood up and went to an old wooden desk in the corner. She rummaged through a drawer and pulled out a business card. Do you remember Kezia Brooks? She was a few years ahead of you in school. She's a high-powered attorney now. Does family law, custody, all of it. I talked to her last year about the property taxes. She's sharp, Nara. Real sharp. Nara looked at the card. Kezia Brooks. She remembered a tall, serious girl who was always top of her class. Is she here in the city? Yes, her office is downtown. Call her. Tell her everything. She'll help you. Nara took the card with trembling fingers. Thanks, Mom. But listen, she looked her mother in the eye. Not a word to Dantrell. I have to act like I don't know anything until Monday morning, or they'll change their plan. I understand. Gwendolyn nodded. You leave Nyla here. She's safe with me. Nara spent an hour with her daughter helping her unpack and playing a quick game of cards. Then she left. She dialed Kezia's number from the cab. Kezia Brooks speaking.
Kezia.
Hi, it's Nara Vance. We went to school together. Niara Veronova back, then there was a pause. Nara. Yes, I remember you. What's going on? I need help. Legal help. Urgently, it's a divorce and a frame-up at work. Another pause.
Come to my office today.
I have a window at 2. Do you have the address? I do.
Thank you, Kezia.
At 2 o'clock, Nara was standing in front of a sleek office building downtown. The sign on the door read, Brooks and Associates, Family and Corporate Law. Nara walked in. The office was modern and bright. Kezia was sitting behind a large mahogany desk. She looked almost exactly as she had years ago. Clear features, an intense, focused gaze.
Nara.
Kezia stood and shook her hand.
Sit down.
Tell me everything from the beginning. Don't leave anything out. And Nara did. She told her about the embezzlement plot, the forged signatures, the recording, and the custody plan. Kaza listened in total silence, occasionally jotting something down. When Nara finished, the lawyer reached out. "Let me hear the recording." Nara played it. All 32 minutes. Kazaya's expression remained professional, but her eyes flared with a cold anger. "Do you have evidence of your work history, commendations, backup files?" Kazaya asked. "I do." Nara nodded. "I have copies of everything at home. I always kept them just in case." "Good." Kazuya closed her notebook. "Here's what we do. Tomorrow is Sunday. We stay quiet. Monday morning before you go to the office, you bring me every single document you have. I'll review them and draft the filings. Then what? Then we go to corporate security. Not to Thorne, not to the CEO. We go straight to the head of security." "Who is he?" "Curtis Blackwell." Nara said. "He's been there forever. People respect him."
Good.
We go to Blackwell. We give him the recording and your documents. We demand an internal investigation. By law, they have to investigate when presented with evidence of a conspiracy like this. They'll look at the files Thorne prepared. They'll find the inconsistencies. Believe me, they will. What if they don't? Nara's throat felt tight. What if Thorne did it too well? Forgeries always show under a microscope. Kazuya shook her head. Handwriting analysis, metadata on the files, digital footprints. Thorne didn't have time to build a perfect case. He was counting on catching you off guard. But now we have the recording, and that changes everything. And Dantrell, we file for divorce immediately on the grounds of adultery and conspiracy to commit fraud. We have the recording of him admitting to the affair and the plot. That will destroy his chances in a custody hearing. The court does not look kindly on parents who try to frame the other for crimes. What if he files first? He won't. I'm going to file the papers electronically this evening. By Monday morning, they'll be in the system. When he tries to file his, he'll find out a case is already open." Nara let out a long breath. "Kazuya, I don't know how to thank you."
Don't thank me yet.
The lawyer smiled for the first time. "We have a lot of work to do, but we have the truth and we have the advantage. They have no idea, you know. They spent another 2 hours in the office." Kazuya drafted the initial papers and questioned Nara about every detail of her work with Thorne and Dantrell. When Niara left, it was dark. She took the bus home. She called Dantrell on the way. "Where are you?" he snapped. "It's past 8. "At Mom's." Nara lied calmly. "Na is staying there. My mom needed help with some stuff. I'll be home soon." "Fine." He hung up. Nara arrived home at 9:30. Dantrell was in the kitchen with his laptop. He didn't even look up. "Dinner's in the fridge," she said. "Heat it up if you're hungry." "Whatever," he muttered. Nara went into the bathroom, stood under a hot shower for a long time, then went to bed. Tomorrow was Sunday, the last day of peace. On Monday, the war would begin, but she wasn't alone anymore. Sunday passed in a blur of tension. Nara stayed home pretending to do chores. Dantrell left in the morning, saying he was seeing friends and didn't come back until late. She didn't ask where he'd been. On Monday, Niara was up at 6. Dantrell was still asleep. She silently gathered her files, her contracts, her performance reviews, her personal logs of every major transaction. At 7, she was at Kazuya's office. "Ready?" Kazuya asked, holding a briefcase. "Ready." Nara nodded. They drove to the company headquarters. On the way, Kazuya gave her final instructions.
"Stay calm.
We go to Blackwell. We present the facts. You are the victim here. Remember that." At 8 o'clock, they walked into the building. Nara led Kazuya to the head of security's office. Curtis Blackwell was a man in his 50s with a stern face and graying hair. He looked up, surprised to see them. "Nara, what's going on? Who is this?" "Kazuya Brooks, attorney at law," Kazuya said, placing her card on his desk. "We are here on a matter of serious corporate fraud and conspiracy involving Harrison Thorne and Dantrell Vance." Blackwell froze. "Explain." Nara told the story. Kazuya played the recording and showed the documents. Blackwell listened, his face growing darker with every passing minute. When the recording finished, he leaned back and swore under his breath. Thorne, I always knew he was a shark, but this is criminal. You have every right to an investigation, Blackwell said firmly. Weeb Unk, LL start today. Nara, you go home, Keziah said. Don't go to your desk. Blackwell will handle the office side. Nara waited for 3 days. 3 endless days of sitting in her apartment, staring at her phone. Dantrell came and went, completely oblivious. He seemed to be in a great mood, even humming to himself. He was clearly waiting for the firing to happen. But on Wednesday morning his phone rang. Niara heard the conversation from the next room.
What?
What investigation?
I don't understand.
Mr. Thorne, what's happening? Then silence. Then a string of curses. Dantrell ran out of the room, grabbed his jacket. I have to get to work, he barked. What happened? Nara asked innocently. None of your business, he yelled and slammed the door. An hour later, Keziah called. Thorne is fired for cause. Security found the forged documents he was prepping against you. They also found evidence of other financial irregularities in his department. Kickbacks and embezzlement. They're filing criminal charges. And Dantrell is fired too for complicity. And Sloan, all 3 of them. The CEO is furious. He's ordering a full audit of the last 5 years. Nara closed her eyes. Is it really over? It's just beginning. Keziah's voice sounded triumphant. And by the way, you're expected in the office tomorrow morning for your new role. Chief Accountant Montgomery called me himself to apologize. He said, you're one of the most valuable people they have. Nara felt the tears fall, but they were tears of pure relief. Thank you, Keziah. Nara walked into the office on Thursday morning. She had spent a long time in front of the mirror putting herself together. She wore a sharp navy suit, her hair in a neat bun, and a touch of makeup. She had to look confident. Dantrell hadn't come home the night before. He was likely scrambling between lawyers, trying to save himself. It was too late. When she walked into the office, several colleagues met her with supportive smiles. Bernice was the first to approach. Nara, honey, we're all on your side. We heard what happened. Niara nodded and walked into her new office, the one Thorne used to occupy. It had already been cleared of his things. On the desk were neatly organized folders. She sat in the chair and exhaled. This was her office now, her career. An hour later, Sterling Montgomery called her in. He looked tired. Nara, I want to offer my deepest apologies. What happened is unacceptable. I trusted Thorne for 20 years. I never thought he was capable of such betrayal. Mr. Montgomery, you couldn't have known. Nara said, regardless, I am responsible. I want you to know we value you. Your position as chief accountant is secure. Furthermore, we are increasing your base salary by an additional $10,000 on top of the initial promotion. It's a small compensation for what you've been through. A $40,000 total raise. Nara nodded. Thank you. The rest of the day was a whirlwind of work. She had to sort through the mess Thorne had left behind. He hadn't just been trying to frame her. He had been systematically siphoning money through shell companies for years. Millions of dollars. The divorce court hearing was a week later. Niara arrived early with Keziah. Dantrell was already there with a young, expensive-looking lawyer. When Niara walked in, Dantrell glared at her with a mix of rage and desperation. The judge was a stern woman in her 50s. Case of Vance versus Vance. Petitioner Niara Vance. Respondent Dantrell Vance. Proceed. Keziah stood and laid out the facts. The 10-year marriage, the adultery, the plot to frame Nara, the criminal conspiracy. She played the recording. The courtroom was silent for 32 minutes. When it finished, the judge looked at Dantrell. His lawyer had turned pale. Does the respondent have anything to say? The judge asked. Dantrell's lawyer stood up. Your Honor, my client admits to the infidelity. However, he has always been a good father and has a right to shared custody. On what grounds? Keziah countered. On the grounds that he planned to steal the child using fabricated criminal charges. He was part of a criminal conspiracy. The judge hammered her gavel. Silence. Mr. Vance, stand up. Did you really plan to take the child by having your wife fired under false pretenses? Dantrell stood up slowly. Yes, but I wanted what was best for my daughter. Nara is always at work. She doesn't have time for the girl. I thought Nyla would be better off with me and Sloane, who was going to step in as her mother. As her replacement mother, the judge added dryly. Suddenly, the doors to the courtroom flew open. Sloane burst in, looking disheveled. Wait, I want to speak. I would have loved Nyla better than her mother did. Remove this woman, Keziah said sharply. She is not a party to this case. Security escorted a screaming Sloane out. The door slammed shut. Mr. Vance, the judge said coldly. Do you realize the damage you have done? You participated in a plot to strip your wife of her job, her reputation, and her child. I am granting the divorce. Full custody is awarded to the mother, Nara Vance. The father is granted supervised visitation once a week for 4 hours in the presence of the mother. Child support is set at 25% of his income, whatever that may be now. The apartment purchased by the petitioner before the marriage is not subject to division. The respondent has 10 days to vacate. Dantrell jumped up. That's not fair. I lived there for 10 years. You lived there by the grace of your wife, the judge replied. And then you tried to destroy her life. Consider yourself lucky that criminal charges haven't been finalized against you yet.
Case closed.
Niara sat still. She had won. For months past, spring had arrived in Charlotte, and the city was blooming with dogwoods and elas. Nara had settled into her new life. She and Nyla were closer than ever. The divorce had been hard on the girl at first, but she had adjusted. Dantrell saw her on Saturdays, but the visits were strained. Work was going well. Niara had cleaned up the finance department and earned the respect of everyone in the company. She had used her raise to buy Nyla a new laptop, get herself a few nice things, and help her mother with everything she needed. For the first time, she had savings. She felt peace. One Saturday in April, Niara was walking back from the grocery. Nyla was at home working on a school project. It was a warm, beautiful day. As Nara approached her building, she froze. Standing by the stoop was a familiar small figure in a bright sweater. It was Sela, the girl who had warned her that night. Niara walked up to her. Sela turned and smiled. Hello, ma'am. Hello, Sela. Niara set her bags down and knelt beside her. I remember you. You saved me. I saw you were a good person, the girl said simply. So I helped. Niara reached into her purse and pulled out $300. Please take this. You really did save my life. Sela took the money and tucked it into her pocket. Thank you. Is everything better now? Yes. Nara smiled through tears. Everything is good. My daughter is with me. We're happy. I'm glad. The girl nodded seriously. Take care of her. She's going to be someone important. I promise, Nara whispered. Sela waved goodbye and vanished around the corner. Niara watched her go, then picked up her groceries and went inside. She walked up to the 3rd floor and opened her door. Nyla was at the table with a textbook.
Hey, Mom.
I'm almost done with the project. Nara hugged her daughter tight. Just a normal day, a normal life. But it was so precious. That evening, after Nyla went to sleep, Nara stood on her balcony looking at the city lights. She remembered that November night, the promotion, the warning, the betrayal she heard from behind the brick wall. She remembered finding the strength not to break, recording that conversation, and fighting for her life. Nara smiled and went back inside. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but she knew she could handle them. She had survived the nightmare. She was strong. She was free. And she had everything she needed right there in that apartment. That was all that mattered. Did you like the story? And which city are you listening from? Thank you so much for your sweet support. I'm looking forward to your comments on the story. On the screen, you can see 2 new life stories that I highly recommend. There's so much more on my channel. Don't forget to subscribe. See you in the next life story with love and respect.